Welcome back, guys. Let's do a little video on how to spot that perfect dime. Let's go! All right, guys, let's do a quick little checklist of the tools that you're gonna need in your process of trying to spot the perfect dime. So first, I definitely would suggest getting yourself a pair of either a cloth, some type of material glove, or a latex glove. That's very important, especially if you're handling any kind of chrome, any kind of shiny cards. It's gonna be a big plus not to handle those with your fingerprints, because you're gonna have to wipe those off eventually in your process. So that is a big key. Make sure you have at least one glove available to you in your process. Second, I like to have a little mist spray bottle, but remember, do not use this on any paper cards because they'll be screwed. So this is only for chrome, only for shiny cards, and only on the front side of those cards to see if you could remove those fine fingerprints or some kind of minor damage that you might see that will be able to come off with a little wiping of it. So only use this on chrome style cards. Do not use it on paper cards because your cards will get damaged and you don't want that. So that's number two. Number three, I like to have some type of microfiber cloth. These I typically use to clean up the front, the back, anything that I might see if they were handled prior to obviously putting them in a sleeve, putting them in a case, or even if they were handled before you obtained the cards. It's important to have one of these microfiber cloths. Any type of microfiber cloth will do. I generally tend to have stuff that I've used to clean my watches. These work perfectly for me, so any one of these will do you wonders. Next, I like to use, this is my process, again, this is what I use. I like to have these little polishing cloths. They're very fine material, so they're not going to scratch or do any damage if you're using them the right way. So this is, if you see a bit of a slightly damaged card that you think has been handled specifically, or when it went through the print or through the machine, this will come in handy with a little bit of the spray, and one of these guys, it'll come in play for you. Trust me. Don't go too hard with those, but it will definitely come in play. There's different styles of these, different finishes. Use the finest one possible because they will damage cards. And again, this is for chrome cards only. Do not use this on paper ever. Next, I like to have one of these little stands. It's card rotator is what this is, but I like to have it on so I can just put the card on, just kind of start my process. I can visualize things. If I have a loop or I have a magnifying glass, I can definitely get a better look of things instead of just holding it in my hands and having it being shaky. This way you're getting your best opportunity to tell how things are, what everything looks like. If it's centered, you'll be able to tell. Obviously you're gonna have to, get an up close and personal view of it, but this is just kind of the starting point for me. So this is step 5 of my process. The next step is definitely get yourself, which, this is kind of no-brainer. You're gonna need penny sleeves and you're gonna need some type of card saver. Anything that you can have to put your cards in. Penny sleeves is something that everybody has when they're in collectibles. You're gonna have to put your card in there eventually if you want to protect it. Top loaders is part of your process as well, but that doesn't have anything to do with submitting your cards unless you submit your cards with top loaders, and then the graders are going to decide how they feel about that. But this is the process that they suggest. Some type of card saver, some type of protector that's easily obtainable out there. I don't know as far as pricing goes which are the best, which are the worst. I know there's many manufacturers that make certain things of this nature. So whatever's going to be the best cost efficient for you, whatever your budget allows you to do, that's the most important thing in this process. It's got to be budget friendly. You've got to be able to make sure that you don't skimp out on anything, but also don't break the bank on this process, because you're trying to maximize your potential in the long run. So it's important that you find the most cost-efficient process. Last but not least, the most important part is you're gonna need some type of collectible card, whether it's sports cards, whether it's a gaming card, whether it's Pokemon, whatever it is that you're doing in your process. You're gonna need something to be able to look and find out if it's worthwhile sending to get graded. Now, in my process, first, I definitely like to start off with, is it centered up and down? That is where I'm gonna start with. That's where I'm gonna look at first. Next, I'm definitely gonna look at the surface, see if there's any dings or dents that are not being seen up close and personal. Get it to as much of a magnifying process as you can get to be able to tell if there's any markings. Don't submit that card. 9 times out of 10, you're not getting a better than a 9. You've already put yourself one grade low with some type of marking. Also, don't forget, a lot of people seem to forget that the back is also important in your process. This is something that you need to take a look at. The backs of these cards also are being looked at by the grader. There's marks, there's corners, there's things that you might not see on the front end, but on the back side of it, there might be a dent or a mark. And right there, you're definitely putting yourself in a position where that card will now possibly get you a 9. And if you're in the industry to get 9s and to submit cards to get 9s, again, they're great in certain aspects. Vintage 6, 7, or 8s, they might be incredible to get a vintage card from the 60s and an 8, in the 50s and a 7, in the 40s, in a 5 or a 6. Those are great. But modern day cards, getting a 9 is basically, nowadays, with the way the market is trending, a 9 is basically going to get you what close to raw gets you. So if you're out for 9s, submit whatever you can. But if you're looking to get 10s, your process should be more precise and more narrowed down to the best of your abilities. All right, guys, so now that we've got our gloves on, let's take a look and see what we've got. Most importantly, I'm looking at left, right, up, down. Is this card centered? In my opinion, again, this is all objective, so this is going to be all on what your opinion is and what you think it looks like. But when I'm looking at a card like this, I'm seeing up, down, left, right. This is about as good as a center as it can be. There might be a small percentage off left to right, but generally, if you're off by 5%, you're not going to get dinged a grade. If you're off by a few percent, you're not going to get dinged a grade. It's only when you start getting into the 75, 25, 65, 35 is where you're going to start seeing a downgrade. Also, don't forget, the back is important. Let's take a look at this part of the card. Is it pretty well centered on the back as well? The tops to bottom is going to be different here, so you're going to get, that card is going to be looked at differently top to bottom. But now, let's take a look and see. Do we see any markings? Do we see any dings? Do we see any dents? Do we see any major surface scratches? Those are going to be the most important in your process. Try to be as visual as possible. Get a loop, get a magnifying glass, get as many strong LED, any type of lighting that you can get that will give you the best view possible. Get up close and personal. Make sure you see what every corner, what every edge looks like. Also, in the meantime, you might need to take one of these microfiber cloths and you might need to kind of clean up a little bit the extra printing material that happened to this card when it was getting printed from the manufacturer. So those are also key details. Make sure that you don't leave any room for your card to be looked at and said, well, either this person didn't care to send the card to us in the best possible condition, or he just doesn't know what he's doing. So when the grader gets your card and sees, hey, this person actually handled it with as much care as possible, did the right process, cleaned everything up, didn't leave any fingerprints, didn't leave any ketchup stain, didn't leave anything else on it while they were trying to go over this card, it's gonna help you big time. So stick to the process, stick to all the little details, look at all your corners. If it's not a perfectly sharp corner, that's gonna have a big opportunity for your card to get a lower grade. So these are details that are very important. Look at all the edges, look at all the print lines. These cards have come straight from the pack, from the manufacturer. And again, there's gonna be little details in here that could ding your card a grade. And when you're in this business, 10s are what you're after. Unless you're PCing or you got vintage cards. Because if you get this card in a 9, you basically did not profit off of it. If you sent it in and graded it, that's another $15 to $18 to get a card like this graded. And by the time it's all said and done, you've definitely lost money on this process. So do not send in anything that you think is gonna be a 9 unless, like I said, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, vintage cards. Send them all in. Anybody tells you that if you get a 9 and a card like this, it's better than having it or flipping it or selling it or whatever you may be doing with it raw, they're fooling you. They're just trying to hustle. They're just trying to get you to do something that is going to get in your pocket and get some money out of you. Nowadays, 9s are basically raw condition cards. The market is trending towards that direction. Like I said, unless it's something very rare, very limited, you know, a 1 of 1 or a 1 of 10 or something very specific, that will maybe increase the value a little bit. But this card in a 9 is just as good as raw. Unless you're collecting this particular player or any particular player and you just want to put that card in a slab so it looks prettier, by all means, knock your socks off. Send 100 cards in. But if you are doing this as some kind of either side business or side hustle or just flipping or whatever it may be, if it's not a 10, this card will not gather any more value than if you were to just sell it raw. Alright, let's take a look at a paper card. Now, with paper, you've got other things to look at. Obviously, these corners, you put a little ding on it, you put a little boop, bop, bip into it, and basically at that point, it's shot. Your odds of getting a 10 on that card are slim to none. Cornering is very important with any card, but with paper, they get damaged a lot easier than with some of the chrome finished cards. So let's just look and see if we can see anything on this specific card. Technically, you're looking for bent marks, ding marks, like indentation marks, anything of that nature that you can see on the back of it is very important. If you're seeing clear, nothing major, I mean, there's a small window where you can get a small minor mark and that's not going to affect the grade. But I try to keep it as clean as possible. If this card has any minor mark, I'm not taking a chance of setting it to get graded. Again, with modern cards, you want to get 10s. Now, rookie cards of certain players, certain things that are more valuable, certain things that are going back, you know, 1990s, early 2000s, or if you have some kind of LeBron rookie card, Steph rookie card, Mike Trout rookie card, anything very specific, those cards in 9s will still hold value. But when you're talking about a card that you just pulled today from a collectible or a sports card that just came today, if you're getting a 9, the raw value is basically the same. So stick to trying to make your process more fine-tuned to where you can tell, hey, listen, this card looks like a 10, everything looks good about it, I've cleaned it up properly, I put in my time, now I'm going to get ready to send this in for grading. Take a look at another chrome card. So when I look at a card like this, clearly I'm going to take this process and I'm just going to view it to the best of my abilities. But again, when you get yourself one of these really fine misters, when I'm saying when you're spraying something like this, make sure that you're not directly spraying into the card. I like to just get a fine little mist, just get it down like that, and then I'll go and I'll clean it up to the best of my abilities. But again, this process is only going to work for these type of cards. Do not do this on paper. Do not do this on any vintage cards. You're only doing this on cards of this nature. Only cards that can handle this process. And again, do not shoot this thing with water and soak it down, because it'll go through and you'll be able to see the watermarks. So do not overspray these. Like I said, a very fine little mist is all you really need. Wipe it down, get rid of any of the markings, get rid of any of the fingerprints that you might see, any fine printing lines that might have come out. Then again, when I'm looking at this, I'll go back and I'll take one of these guys, and let's say I'll say, okay, well, if I couldn't get it out with just wiping it with the microfiber cloth, can I do something else where I'm looking at this and I'm trying to get any kind of major or minor imperfection? Again, major print lines, major defects, you're not going to be able to buff out. You're not going to be able to take out. That's just how it's going to work. You're going to be able to get some of them out. You're going to be able to do certain things to improve the quality of it. But mainly, it's just about getting out any kind of imperfections, any kind of fingerprints. If you bought this card from somebody else and they handled it a certain way when they pulled it from the pack, you don't know how many times these cards are handled. Now, when you get them from a box or from a pack or from a case that you bought and you know how the card is handled, always, first thing you want to do is when you get that card out of that pack, sleeve it. Even if you don't top load it right away, at least put it in a penny sleeve. So then there's no possibility of new fingerprints. Oh, you're having lunch in the same time, you're doing something, you know, exciting or whatever the case may be, and something drops on this card, and now that card is completely ruined. You can't do anything to get that card back to where it needs to be. And then the next and final step is going to be, well, get your card saver, get your card sleeve, whatever you're putting these cards in, get it ready, and now you're ready to send this card in for grading. I mean, you've done everything that you can. Now it's up to somebody else's opinion. There's only so much you can do. There's only so much effort that you can put in the process. But if you put in the time and if you put in the work, I promise you, your results, if they're not there, they'll definitely get better. So stick to the process, stick to the plan. Try to follow some of the tips that I presented to you guys here. Again, it's very simple. There's nothing really expensive that you're gonna need. Some gloves, you know, a couple of microfiber cloths, really good lighting. If you could get yourself a magnifying glass or a loupe or something that you could definitely get to see the finest details possible. After that, the rest is up to what kind of time you're willing to put into it. How much time do you want to put into the game? How much time do you want to put into your process? It's all up to you. But again, if you've got any questions, guys, feel free. Again, I can't state that enough. Feel free to shoot me a message. Hit me up on any platform that you can find me out there. I'm out there. I'm out here. I want to help you guys. If you need the help, I'm willing to help. Again, like I said, don't fall for anybody's grand scheme or grand plan to get charged $7, $8, $12, $15, whatever the case may be, to get your card prepared. That's absolutely ludicrous. Who's ever charging you that money, say thanks, but no thanks. Get the information, use the information. If you need some more help, I'm out here. Hit me up. Thanks again. Hope you have a fantastic day, a wonderful week, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.